Red Ray Gun Limited presents
The Benji and Nick Show. Hello. Welcome. Welcome, travellers from far-off lands and those who've just been down the chip shop. My name is most certainly Benji.
And I am definitely Nick. This is our show.
This is the Benji and Nick Show. Another week, Nick, eh? Another week.
Another week, and here we are, keen as mustard, to discuss. Well, this time we're going to be discussing Chocky.
Oh, yes. Not
The
Chock
TV
Ices,
adaptation.
but
Chocky.
Chocky.
I'd like a Chock Ice.
Love
I've
a
just
Chock
had
Ice.
a cherry Bakewell tart.
Oh, lovely. Oh,
Hey, from the local bakery, very nice. Chocky, this TV adaptation done for ITV, children's TV. What year was it?
so Chocky
Early
was
80s.
broadcast in 1984.
84. Okay, yeah. We'll be talking about that. That is our main topic. But of course, you may remember that we are sponsored by the Jerry Anderson store.
We most certainly are.
Yeah, do you, shall I talk about the new offer from the Jerry Anderson store?
Do you know what? You should jolly well do that, because a new offer is always exciting.
I mean, we've had special codes like destroy.
Poo
most
water.
recently, poo water. I don't think poo water has gone down very well, if you pardon the expression.
Well, it's not surprising, is it? Let's put it that way.
I mean, we did humorously speculate that people would rather pay the 10% extra than type 2 poo water.
It's very true. It's very true.
Anyway, it's shop.jerryanderson. Oh, I've forgotten it. Can't believe it. I'd memorised it last time.
That's what you get.
But-
You see, it's shop.jerryanderson.co.uk.
Of course it is. And as a privileged listener to the Benji and Nick Show, you can get £5 off any badge, pin or patch or book purchase. So for some of them that's virtually free, for a lot of them anyway. And the code is Under the Sea. Capitals, all one word. Under the Sea. Do you know why it's Under the Sea?
Why is it under the sea?
Because there's a verse from the Stingray theme that's not used in the TV show, that was only released on the record. You know, it's going Stingray, 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 and it goes da 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 da. It dives under the sea into the world below, where beauty and mystery can always be found. Anyway, so
That's some Barry Gray gold, isn't it? Straight away.
Yeah.
Always delivers
Under the
the goods.
Sea. When I was talking to Jamie Anderson, Jerry's son, I said, "Oh, should we make it Under the Sea?" And he instantly knew. He said, "Jamie's a bit of a musical dark horse in that he's quite musically literate. He can pick out tunes on a piano. I think he's a darn sight more musically educated than I am, for example, and I dare to do musical scores for dramas and things." So there. Anyway,
A dark horse.
He knew. Yes. He works for Lloyd's Bank. He's a dark horse. Never mind, sorry. That's not even remotely funny. But it didn't stop me saying it. So Under the Sea is something that Jamie recognised immediately. So
Now,
yeah, £5
Nick,
off, not bad.
I want to flip this one this week on its head here, because you always ask me
Wow.
for my Anderson memories. But
Yeah.
you're a man, you grew up with the Anderson
I am a man.
Productions. I am a man. Have you got any memories this week? Because I feel like you're a good man to touch upon with this one.
Well, I don't memories. I wanted to continue the tradition, in inverted commas, that we started a week ago. It's a tradition of reading out the titles of a Jerry Anderson series. I did Stingray last week, and I don't know why it took me so long to find the word week. A bit slightly distracted by Commander Koenig and Helena Russell staring at me from my iTunes. They really are looking right at me in a kind of "don't take the mickey out of us" way.
You dare, you dare.
Because they just know I'm going to. So I'm just going to read out of the titles of Space 1999 Series 1. Don't even talk to me about Series 2. Have you seen both series?
I've not, Nick. Like I said, I think I said it a few weeks ago. I said it's on my list of things.
You've not seen anything?
No, it's just, just honestly, this is the problem when you're young like me. You just don't, you never see these things.
I think that we're almost deciding what to talk about next week. Anyway, and I've got to say it in the style of characters from Space 1999, which will fall on deaf ears to you because you don't know any of the characters. So there's Commander Koenig, played by Martin Landau, and he was always very intense. Episode 1, Breakaway.
Of course it is. Of course.
And then episode 2, Helena Russell would say, War Games. Episode 3, Prentice Hancock played Paul Morrow.
Great. Prentice Hancock legend.
Death's other dominion is how he'd say that. Episode 4, I can't remember the name of the guy who played Alan Carter, brilliant actor. And he's an American actor. He's still alive, and he's done some stuff for Jamie Anderson recently, actually. But he was playing an Australian with one of the sort of cod Australian accent that everyone thinks they can do really well. Collision Course.
Right there, mate. Collision Course.
Collision Course. The Barbie and the shrimp.
It's two forces collide there, mate.
So I've run out of characters, really. Victor Bergman, who was playing the scientist who had very slow emotional responses because he had a pacemaker, which is scientifically inaccurate because I have a pacemaker, but I certainly don't have slow emotional responses.
It delays your heart, Nick.
It does. My heart is still in last week. So where did I get to? Collision Course. And he was always going, well, John, we'll just put a ring of satellites around the moon. So Force of Life, episode 5. One of his favourite lines was he used to go, well, John, I just dunno.
Man after my own heart.
Yeah. I always wondered why Commander Koenig didn't punch him and say, what are you for?
Why are you
the
here?
Science man. This is science fiction and you just dunno. And he always had some outrageous theory about it's probably an inner force of psychic power. That's not science, you idiot.
That's an excuse and you're making it.
Yes. Get out of the airlock and don't wear a spacesuit.
Get out of the air. Go. But I'll... What's this like? But it's rain. Well, you should have thought of that, shouldn't you?
I just don't know. So episode 6, in no particular voice, Alpha Child. Episode 7, Guardian of Piri.
Piri chicken.
Oh, listen, I had a Moroccan chicken tagine for lunch.
Oh, gorgeous. Love a tagine.
Yeah.
Did it come in those little triangular sort of potty things that they come in, with the
potty.
lids? The lid. They're like
potty. That's an unfortunate word.
That's an unfortunate word to use.
Especially because of the effects it had on me. But anyway, it was very nice. Did I do Dragon's Domain?
You didn't, I think.
That is one of the scariest things you'll ever see in a Jerry Anderson show.
The Dragon's Domain.
Yeah. It's absolutely, horrid, actually. Anyway, Mission of the Darians. Episode 10, Black Sun. Episode 11, End of Eternity. Although iTunes have accidentally entered it incorrectly. It says End of Eternity. Episode 12, I'm just having a go at iTunes now. Voyager's Return. Episode 13, Matter of Life and Death, which is a copy of a... Have you ever seen the film A Matter of Life and Death, starring David Niven?
No, but I love David Niven.
You must see it.
I've seen A Matter of Loaf and Death with Wallace and Gromit.
Oh, right, yeah. The famous bread-based cinematic experience. No, really, I demand that you watch A Matter of Life and Death.
It's
the most profound, lovely, beautiful movie.
A Matter of Life.
G for George. Oh, it's just amazing. It has me crying within 5 minutes. It's so stiff upper lip.
I love David Niven. I think he's an absolute champion. So.
And Marius Goring, from Evil of the Daleks, or who was later to appear in Evil of the Daleks. Yeah.
Richard Attenborough. Anything with Richard Attenborough in is going to be brilliant. Oh no! It's this film. Oh, I feel like I've either seen it or I've actually got it on one of those CDs those DVDs you used to get from newspapers.
I bet you have,
because it's that very famous photo of David Niven and Kim Hunter together. Looking like holding each other, and
she's amazing in it actually as well. And also, was it Roger Livesey? Is that his name?
Dr. Frank Reeves. He plays.
He's an amazing actor. He's got the most incredible voice. He's just. Yeah, you've got to watch it.
Yeah, check that one out.
I bet you'll get 10 minutes in and realise you've seen it.
Anything with Squadron Leaver Peter David Carter as the main character is going to be my vibe.
And Marius Goring is incredible, playing this French angel who comes down to claim him.
Conductor 71.
That's right, yeah. And it's a mixture of black and white and colour.
Clever.
Like the afterlife is in black and white, but real life is in colour.
Wow!
And of course, it was made right at the end of the Second World War. Oh goodness, you must watch it.
I will. Count me in.
It's the sort of film that I could watch at the drop of a hat, even if there was no hat involved. Episode 14, Earthbound. Episode 15, The Full Circle. Do you think that's where Andrew Smith nicked the title from?
Starring the Marshmen. Yeah.
Episode 16, Another Time, Another Place. Do you think they just couldn't think of a place to set it? Where will it be?
Another time, another place.
Episode 17, The Infernal Machine. Machine or man?
Is it that infernal?
Alpha encounters one of the strangest mysteries of the universe. A living machine. The strangest object overseen, it says. Ever seen. It's a typo. But who writes this stuff on iTunes? The strangest object overseen by man appears in the space sky. The space sky? What is a space sky?
It's just sort of, sky. Sort of space.
It sounded like I was saying space guy, didn't it? Yeah.
Who's the space guy? Who's this space guy?
A huge spacecraft of some sort. That describes every episode of Space 1999. But breaking every known law of aerospace propulsion. But yeah, why does it... It's in space. Anyway, okay. Ring Around the Moon. Ring Around the Rune, I was going to say. Ring Around the Moon is episode 18. And coming in at 19... Missing Link. Commander Koenig finds himself in another world and another time. What, again?
As always.
Episode 20, The Last Sunsets. The prospect of a normal life dangles tantalizingly for the occupants of the... I can't be bothered to read the rest of it. Episode 21... Space Brain. Alpha encounters an intangible mass.
Rather not go into that.
No, I think that looks like a pre-digested
biscuit.
Chicken tagine biscuit. We're nearly over. That only goes to episode 24, and then luckily someone pulled the plugs. Episode 22, The Troubled Spirit. A ghost stalks the moon as the scriptwriters grasp at something new. I made that last bit up. Episode 23, The Testament of Arcadia. It is the end for the moon, or the beginning... Oh, no, sorry. Is it the end for the moon, or the beginning of a new life? I wonder which. Episode 24, The Last Enema. Enemy. Moonbase Alpha finds itself... The last enema could go with the huge mass it encounters.
Perfect. We're just writing it as it goes on.
Very laboratorial all of a sudden. Anyway, that's me really taking the rip out of poor old Space 1999, which I do love watching. And I think Benji should watch.
I'll definitely give it a go. Definitely think it's on my something I'm going to have to do, isn't it, really, quite frankly?
Something to do. Well, have a tagine and then go for it. Anyway, right.
Get Jamie to send me a copy and I'll do it. That's that.
Yeah. I think it's only like $5.99 for the whole series on iTunes.
Oh, you can't knock that, can you? Let's be honest. It's got the iconic Space 1999 sort of title sequence though is gorgeous.
Yes,
Is absolutely
it is lovely,
gorgeous,
and it's a fantastic idea for a series. You know, ostentatious, outrageous science fiction concept. The moon is blasted away from Earth's orbit, and somehow they all survive.
Well, you know, somebody's got to, haven't they? Quite frankly, there's not enough. There's not enough science fiction on telly these days, in my opinion. Like good science, like science fiction. You know,
There's The Expanse. Have you not watched The Expanse?
Yes, there is The Expanse. I meant more kind of British television. You know, like we're talking no budget really, and sort of, you know, yeah.
Well, we should make it on our iPhones, shouldn't we?
We should,
put it on my YouTube channel. We should do some proper science fiction with no special effects.
Yeah, and we could cover all the walls in sort of tin foil, and we have to wear jumpsuits, and we have to say stuff like, and most of it is complete sort of gobbledygook, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, the jumpsuits. I used to have a jumpsuit when they were fashionable. You know that.
Jumpsuits are cool, man. You know, nothing wrong with a jumpsuit.
In a Gary Newman style-y.
Very cool. All you have to do then is just go to a hardware store, buy a hose or a few little things to stick on it to make it look slightly more spacey.
Yeah.
And then we just say stuff like, Delta 1 to 765, this is Red Ray Gun Productions here speaking to... I just said Red Ray. I was like,
I'm not receiving you, over.
It's worse than I thought. Quickly, boost the propulsion drills.
Propulsion drills. Yes.
I haven't got any. Will these drills do?
What are they? Oh, I got them from... They're from being good enough. Good enough.
Yeah.
They're from Sci-Fi Space B&Q.
Just put, if you can't think of a new word, just put space in front of it.
Space B&Q.
Open the space door, walk down the space path.
He checked into the space motel this morning, sir. Excellent. I trust he slept well.
Yes, he's having space breakfast now.
Yes, he was in his space pod until the late morning. I think he slept well. Excellent.
I think it was space morning, actually.
Space morning, yeah. He asked us to give him some space. Space,
yeah. That's not normal space, that's space.
That's space. You need it. In space, there's a lot of space, but everybody needs a little bit extra. Space.
I just wanted to tell you that we are going to give you the result of the Jerry Anderson competition we started running 2 weeks ago. It's the closing of that competition, and we'll give you a new competition as well, but that's at the end of the podcast, well, near the end, which you'll probably be perturbed to hear you're nowhere near at the moment. Let's, before we go on to Chocky, go to emails, which people can send to podcast@nicholasbriggs.com.
They can indeed.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. Here's a fascinating one from Nick Milton.
Okay.
Subject line, and this is crazy, Mandela effect.
Got me already, I'm interested.
Regarding Benji having memories of a TV series he recalls watching but can now find no mention of, are either of you familiar with the Mandela effect? If not, I would certainly advise looking it up. The name comes from several people having vivid recollections of Nelson Mandela actually dying in prison in the 1980s, quite at odds with, in quotes, our reality, where he was released and enjoyed several years of freedom. The theory has been put forward that some people have experienced shifts in reality, possibly having moved sideways from one parallel world to another. This might not be as crazy as it sounds. Are you sure? As some quite eminent people, name them, have said the use of CERN's Hadron Collider could create such an effect. Other examples of changes are to do with films, music and TV. For example, many people, myself included, remember a book and a movie entitled Interview with a Vampire, but every reference now appears to both being called Interview with the Vampire. What?
Madness.
You
Madness.
mean the result of this paradox is the word A has changed to the word the? Why has no one written a movie about this?
I think they have, and it changed.
Yeah. They did. It was made, but now it wasn't. The biggest shift for me comes from being a lifelong fan of Bond movies. I've never heard of James Bond. It doesn't exist. I think you've just made that up, Nick Wilton. The first one I saw in the cinema was Moonraker in 1979. Indeed. Mine was Live and Let Die, by the way. What was your first Bond movie?
First Bond movie was what I saw in the cinema, or that I saw
in the cinema.
In the cinema was GoldenEye.
Bless you.
I think it was GoldenEye. It was either GoldenEye or Tomorrow Never Dies.
Oh, I feel so young. Indeed, I went on to see it a further 2 or 3 times that year when it was shown as part of a double bill with other Bond movies, and have since seen it countless times on TV. Though it might not be my favourite film of the lot, I think it is certainly the one I have seen the most. Now, I have a vivid recollection of the scene where Dolly, the short blonde girl wearing glasses, rescues Jaws from the cable car wreckage. And the most striking thing about Dolly, apart from her small stature in comparison to Jaws, is that when he smiles at her, she smiles back and is shown to have, do you remember? Braces on her teeth. This was the joke. 2 people totally opposing in their sizes, but united through having metal teeth. I challenge anybody to look at a VHS, DVD or Blu-ray of this movie today and find those braces now. When she smiles, she is shown to have perfect teeth. According to the various people involved with making the movie, she never had braces, and no, there has been no digital editing performed on the movie since. However, 1 or 2 old websites devoted to the Bond movies do have entries written some time ago now that do mention the braces, so it would appear people really do have differing memories of this movie. I know what I saw, and I saw it enough times to remember. Dolly wore braces! Truth or fiction? You decide. I've decided. Having said that, I myself have no recollection of a children's TV show with such a sweary title. But hey, Benji, maybe in another dimension. What was it? Bloody Towers, wasn't it?
Bloody Towers, yeah.
Yours currently in this state of reality, Nick Milton. I think I called you Nick Wilton earlier, Nick, so I'm sorry about that. I think Nick Wilton's an actor I've worked with. Yeah. What do you think of that, Benji?
So I am familiar with the term the Mandela effect. I think actually we spoke about it on the Big Finish podcast quite a while ago. Yes, so
I think that's the Mandela effect, and you've just imagined that from a paradoxical, parallel, pliable, pink.
I believe so, because
mannerless.
But what do I think about it? Well, I'm certainly open to the idea of the Mandela effect, because I think that it doesn't seem impossible, especially if you take into account Einstein's theory of relativity. But anyway, besides that, my experiences with the Mandela effect, I have 2 things really. The first one is that it first was introduced to me because I had a complete freak out moment. When I saw that they were advertising a new series. I think it's called Supergirl. They're advertising a new series of Supergirl, the TV series. Now, the TV series of Supergirl came out in 2015, right? But I was
right,
and I think I did a tweet actually, and I said I can't believe that they're only just making another series of this. I swear it's been like about 10 years, because I remember so clearly Supergirl, an advert for Supergirl on Sky One in the about 1999 to 2000. I remember it so clearly. I remember the imagery, I remember the old Sky One logo, and it absolutely blew my mind when suddenly I found that this program that I remembered from ages ago was like brand new. It totally blew my mind. Now, whether or not this is Mandela effect thing, I don't know, or just me making a huge mistake. It did actually. It genuinely made me stop and kind of have a really like, what is going on moment. It was very weird. But of course, the other famous Mandela effect. I imagine people that come here like science fiction. The famous one, of course, is from Star Wars, where I'll ask Nick this one. Nick, you know when Darth Vader tells Luke that he is his father. Can you remember what he says to him when he says it?
I thought he says, "I am your father."
So he does, but what does he say before that? Because he...
Could you pass the vinegar?
So traditionally, it's always been, for me anyway, it's always been, Luke, I am your father. And then Luke goes, no. But actually, it was always, no, I am your father. But
I would say because it's been parodied so much.
Well, that's exactly
We've
what I
learned
was
the
about to
parody,
say.
like "Beam Me Up, Scotty," which allegedly was never said in the original Star Trek TV series.
Well, this is it, isn't it? I think that is the argument there, isn't it? That things gradually over time get...
I mean, yes. My theory is that human memory is very delicate and very pliable. Just think about when you have a dream, for example, and I often get this, maybe you don't, we're all very different, but you have a dream and you have the feeling while you're having the dream that you've had the dream loads and loads of times. You think, oh, not this dream again. Why am I having this? And then when you wake up and you think back to it, you think, actually, I think I only had the feeling I'd had the dream before. And I didn't actually... That was part of the dream, feeling that I'd had the dream before, you know? Because that feeling of... because our brains are very adaptable things, and all sorts of Ujima flip stuff is going on in a brain at any one time. So, for example, this isn't the same thing, but the fantastic explanation for déjà vu, when you feel that you're experiencing something that you've experienced before, and you can go, oh, and this, and this, and this. And that is because there's a momentary sort of electrical storm in your brain, and the information from your consciousness, rather than the brain stopping it altogether, the brain reroutes that information so it still gets to you. But when it reroutes it, it reroutes it via your memory. So your consciousness is receiving this information rather than from the sort of real-time receptors. It's receiving it through the memory conduit. So it's almost like you imagine like you're, I don't know, watching a television program, and suddenly, because the television isn't working, reality is able to reroute the information from the television through an old book in a library downstairs, and you suddenly think, God, this is like in an old book that I've read before. So the information is just coming from a different direction. So you momentarily, or for some extended period of time, a few minutes usually, no more, feel that you... I mean, no one's ever had déjà vu for a whole blooming day or a week. I think that would just drive someone insane, wouldn't it? But it usually happens for, seconds or maybe minutes. Well, and, I think... so I think it's something like that. I think it's just unreliable information. I'll just say one more thing. Have you ever seen a film, I think it's called either The Cut or The Cutter, with Robin Williams in it?
No.
And the idea in the film is a bit of a Black Mirror idea, which is that, although it came before that, is that we have a thing embedded in our brain in this particular future day after tomorrow society. We have a thing embedded in our brain that records our every conscious thought. And it's done by choice. People say, yeah, I'll have that. So at the moment, so when you're dead, that's extracted, and then a cutter comes along and cuts together a video presentation of your entire life as experienced through you. It cuts you down to about half an hour or something, or an hour, who knows. So the people at the funeral can have this incredible intimate view of this person's life.
Yeah, amazing.
And Robin Williams' character is like the best guy in the business for doing the editing, and they do it through sort of complex sort of hovering screens in the air and all this kind of nonsense. Something like that. Maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe they're just loads of screens. Anyway, at the beginning of the film, some people are filing out of a sort of wake/funeral thing where they've watched this movie for a particular person. And someone comes up to Robin Williams and sort of berates him and says, why did you change the colour of the boat? And Robin Williams' character says, I would never do that. And they say, no, but you did. The boat was green. And he says, no, the boat was blue because that was the colour it was in their memories. I never change anything. I just edit. And the guy just looks so upset. It's either, I don't know whether it's a man or a woman, actually, walks away just going, but I've always told people it was green. And it destroys them that they've got it wrong because they've remembered it wrong. And that, It's so easy to.
What?
I get this with my son as well because, of course, his young memory is very, very patchy around the 4-year mark because he's 8 now. So he has all sorts of slightly incorrect recollections, whereas my more mature, with the emphasis on mature, brain has more precise recollections of his youth. Well,
I think it's apparently, from what I've read, it is a fact that when we remember something, every time we remember it and recollect it, it's slightly different to how it originally was, and that's due to the fact that we remember it and our memories.
We remember the recollection.
Exactly, our memories.
And once we've remembered it, we've overwritten the original memory with our recollection of the memory. So each time you do it, absolutely, you print over it again.
Things
which
change.
is why you start thinking that there were braces, that Darth Vader said what he said, that Nelson Mandela died in prison.
It's like the one about the Monopoly Man. I when I was reading about that, the Monopoly Man, in my mind, has always had a monocle. That I thought the monocle and the top hat thing was the Monopoly Man, but he's never had a monocle. But I'm sure that was just my
fool.
That was you old fool. I think that's probably through thinking about it, seeing things, being influenced by things. Maybe it's been parodied on television like that, and you kind of remember things that way. So a very interesting topic, and I can talk about these things. I love sort of theories and stuff like that. But again, the beauty of these things is for all we know, it could be the Large Hadron Collider, or it could be our minds. Who knows? Quite frankly,
I think it's our minds. That's what I think. I'm pinning my colours to the mast. By the way, one close to my close to home for me, what am I talking about, is the Daleks and Exterminate.
Yeah.
Because the Daleks did not chant Exterminate until the press started saying they did, and then Terry Nation started writing it into the scripts. So people say, I remember the Daleks writing that. I saw the first one, they're like, Exterminate, Exterminate. They didn't say that.
They said
they just referred to exterminating people.
Extermination, or they should be exterminated, isn't it?
Yeah, but they'd never chanted it. But you look at all the news items about Daleks around about that time, and they would say the Daleks brackets exterminate, exterminate. It became, and then you eventually, and you don't really
becomes a thing, doesn't it?
You don't really get it until the John Pertwee era. And that's when the Daleks really started chanting exterminate, and it just gets, well, to perhaps use an unnecessarily emotive term, it just gets worse and worse as it goes on, and then they're all blooming screaming it. The one hovering after Sylvester McCoy in Remembrance of the Daleks, hovering up the stairs,
just going on,
screaming exterminate, exterminate, exterminate. And I remember a very prominent Doctor Who fan, David Howe, said at the time, why didn't he just get on with it and exterminate him? Why does he keep going on? And that's true. I mean, why do the Daleks keep screaming exterminate and don't actually just, in the original stories, they just went fire and straight away. Anyway, getting all carried away there. Do you want to go on to the next?
Well, it was a fun tangent. Thanks, Nick, for writing in about that one and momentarily blowing our minds into dust and darkness. You have to add all the grotesque sound effects in there. So this one here is from Rick Davey of the Unmutual. The Unmutual being the huge prisoner enthusiast group, I believe, website. And it's awesome guy as well, a lovely chap. Subject line, The Prisoner 50th Anniversary. Hi Benji and Nick, loving the podcasts. Obviously my ears pricked up at the chat about Richard Wattis appearing in The Chimes of Big Ben. In the alternative version of the episode, he gets a few more lines, including noting that he and Number 6 went to school together. Wattis played Hardy, John Drake's boss, in Danger Man, and it has been said that the Prisoner casting director, Rose Tobias Shaw, cast Wattis in this very small role as a colleague of Number 6's as a nod to the viewers. So we weren't far off.
Rose Tobias Shaw was the wife of my old head of drama at my drama school.
That's strange. Shaw. That's a strange little prisoner thing, isn't it? It wasn't unusual for Prisoner episodes to feature actors in very small roles. Terence Donovan, father of Jason, who went on to play Doug in Neighbours for many years, has one line in Checkmate, and Roger Lloyd Pack and Mike Runaround Reed were both extras in the series. I feel like
Mike Runaround Reed?
I don't know Mike Runaround Reed, but
Run around now! That was a kid's quiz thing, but he also ended up being in EastEnders for years. He was going, Pat, Pat, Pat.
Let me have a quick look at him, because I'll recognise him. Might run around Reed.
That's not his name. That's just a nickname.
I know it is. Yeah. I recognise him. Yep.
Might run around.
Yeah.
He was a comedian. He used to say.
Really blow dried hair.
Yeah.
Yes. Crazy hair. Obviously, Roger Lloyd Pack, Trigger. He was in everything, though, isn't he? Roger Lloyd Pack.
Yeah.
I mean, he's even in Survivors, wasn't he, for 2 episodes, I believe.
Was he doing?
2 very good episodes. Hey. Anyway, so continue with the email here. Love the show. As with every week, as Shane's moving emails stated last week, they are so important.
We had a great email, didn't we, from Shane Dunphy?
Oh, it was lovely, actually. It was. I was talking to my chum Tom Saunders, and he'd said, it's amazing email actually, and really made him think. And so so thanks again for writing in, and always write in, anybody, if you've got anything on your mind, because it's always nice to hear from you. But so the email says here, as Shane's moving email stated last week, they're very important. They're so important. So many of the shows covered so far were at the time for me personal discoveries, at a time before the internet existed, and at an age where I didn't know other fans or fandom existed. Yeah. So great to know that you and so many others had so many similar personal discoveries. Nick's experience of Death to the Daleks remind me of my love for the Peter Davison story, The Resurrection of the Daleks, or Resurrection of the Daleks, rather. I don't know why I put a "the" in there. Just inventing things. Mandela effect.
There's definitely "the." Yeah, definitely. I remember it that way. It must be true. They all wore braces.
Yeah, the Daleks they all had braces and kept saying Luke to everything. Resurrection Daleks, which was then and now my favourite Who story. I think I'm unique in having that as my favourite. I had chicken pox at the time, so to cheer me up...
So your judgment was impaired. My judgment is impaired.
So my brother and I made a board game based on the episode called Daleks versus Troopers. I'd like to play that. Did you ever make board games or games based on any series when you were young?
No.
I used to make up a lot of games with my toys. Certainly.
Did you?
Yeah. Sad thing, I was always really sort of disappointed that there weren't more Doctor Who toys when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Just loads of Daypole things, but they weren't. You couldn't really get them very easily. Not fun. I also have a message from Time Pass from a friend.
Hearken, Beardface, art thou my brother? I hear no spirit on thy killing bone, so my familiar and I have send an electrically, aye. Thy podcastery is true magic. Seekest you the series Sapphire and Steel, or the film Hawk the Slayer? Hast thou seen them in thy demon box? Mayhap. Come, Touchwood, leave us these chattering chaffinches. Farewell, Beardface, as thou say in thy village. Be seeing you.
Love it. Do you know what? Jeffrey Baildon is quite difficult. His voice is a lot harder to do when you've got a cold, actually.
Oh.
I found that very difficult. I was just sort of doing a generic voice towards the end. Love it. Well, you never know, as I always say. How can we begrudge a request from Mr. Catweasel himself?
Aye, little fish.
And Rick also offers us another competition to win 2 tickets to Not a Number, a Patrick McGowan retrospective. Simply email podcast@nicholasbriggs.com with the subject title 6 and the City.
Love it.
And answer this simple question. What is the title of the last episode of The Prisoner? Oh, by the way, Not a Number is a special celebration of the life and career of Patrick McGowan, taking place at the iconic Elstree Studios in Borehamwood on Saturday the 23rd of June at 6:30 p.m, organised by the Unmutual website and Quiet Media. can't pronounce that, Limited. The event will include on-stage guests and Q&A sessions, screening of rare material, displays of original props and costumes from The Prisoner and Danger Man, and much more! ! Guests include actresses Jane Merrow from The Prisoner, Danger Man and other classic shows, and Vera Day from Hell Drivers, great film with Patrick McGoohan, directors John Huff, Brass Target, Biggles, American Gothic, and Alex Cox, Repo Man, Sid and Nancy, who's written a book all about The Prisoner. And he's a big Dalek fan as well, but I didn't get a chance to speak to him last time I was sort of around him at one of these Prisoner events. And many more guests to be confirmed. Tickets are £20 each. Details at theunmutual.co.uk. The closing date for the competition to win 2 tickets to this event is Friday the 25th of May. Thanks, Rick.
Yeah, cheers for that one.
And finally,
get involved.
This
guys.
the last email for today, because goodness me, we're running out of time to talk about Chocky. From our old friend Anthony Zahetner, subject line Chocky, thoughts. Quite appropriate since we're going to go straight into talking about Chocky after this. Hi, Nick and Benji. Chocky exists on a different plane to the rest of children's sci-fi TV. It is frightening, atypical, and raises issues of schizophrenia and demonic possession. Matthew Gore's denial of the pictures he has painted is quite creepy, as is his kidnapping by so-called authorities to do tests on him without much resistance or questions from others. James Hazeldine is always quality, and Andrew Ellams comes close to outshining him by portraying the necessary emotions required at just the right level. Yeah, he plays the boy, Matthew. I understand that Andrew later became, I was going to reveal this later, but it's interesting, he later became an economics teacher. And when his pupils found out about his appearance in Chocky, if they misbehaved in class,
amazing,
they would often chide that Chocky made them do it. The 1998 BBC radio production starring Sacha Dhawan and Owen Teale should also not be overlooked as a gripping reimagining of Wyndham's story. I've never heard that. Anyway, thanks, Anthony. And so, on to Chocky. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, Chocky's an interesting one. Having not seen it when it was originally on, I have a very mixed feeling about it in a way. My honest opinion of Chocky is, I think the concept is fantastic. I think that the acting is amazing, especially the young guy in it. I mean, he is superb. You can't you can't
fault him. Matthew Gore. Oh, and Matthew Gore is the name of the character, isn't it?
Andrew
Ellams. Yeah,
Andrew Ellams. Yeah. He is fantastic, and I was quite surprised to see that he didn't stick with the acting thing, because I thought, as he channels the right level of innocence and sort of sinister, unwittingly sinister, but it's horrible.
You do really sympathise with him, though, don't you? I mean, I think he's a really good little actor.
And for him, I think he knows it's kind of weird what's going on, but he's just kind of going with it. And I think he just, for him, that's what's happening. I mean, for me, the highlight in terms of reasons to watch it is James Hazeldine, one of my favourite actors. I love him. Everything he's in, he's fantastic. For me, it might be biased because I love London's Burning. He plays Bayleaf in that, and he's he was in that for a long time, and he's such a good character in that and plays it so well. So I would say that, from that side of it, I love Chocky. If I'm going to be critical and I'm going to be honest, I think it goes on a little bit. I found it quite hard to kind of stay focused, despite the fact that the episodes are really short. It felt like quite a task at times to keep watching it. It's quite
dry, isn't it? Yes, it is.
It's what you'd expect from a sort of 80s BBC thing. It feels very BBC and it's got that very middle class vibe, which works well in it. It's quite
atypical for ITV, given what we've said about ITV children's stuff in the past. It is more like a BBC thing.
It does, doesn't it?
And I wonder whether is it Anthony Root who did the adaptation?
Anthony Reid.
Anthony Reid. Oh, I got it right. What's Anthony Reid? Let's Google Anthony Reid.
Route 1, Dalek Nil. So Anthony Reid.
For quite.
Has a history of Invasion of Time, actually Doctor Who wise, and the Horns of Nimon.
Did he write those?
Apparently so, yeah.
He did dreadful.
He did Sapphire and Steel.
Did he? Was he a script editor?
I'm just looking at his writing credits here, so it doesn't say whether he was script editing or writing for these ones in particular. Oh no, it doesn't. Times.
I'm pretty.
He was script editor. Yeah, Invasion
I thought
Time
he was.
script editor, and Horns of Nimon. He was the writer of the Nimon story.
Yeah,
Douglas Adams
awful.
was script editor on that one.
Oh, that's right. But he was script editor of Doctor Who then. Wasn't he?
Apparently so.
He came after Douglas Adams. Yeah, that's what I thought. Sorry, I don't know why I said Anthony. Who's Anthony Root then? He's your gardener, Nick. I don't have a gardener. That's the
now.
Mandela effect. Yeah. You thought you didn't have a gardener. I haven't got a garden, let alone a garden.
Anthony Root is a British television executive and producer. The Chinese Detective.
Any Doctor Who
Doctor
connection?
Who, yeah, script editor for Doctor Who.
Right, so
Bang
Anthony
on the
Root
money.
and Anthony Reid were both script editors of Doctor Who.
But they had an awful time in the canteen. Yeah, I want to go and sit next to Anthony Root, not Anthony Reid. Sorry.
So Anthony Reid was a script editor for Doctor Who. You're certain of that?
Well, it certainly says it. It says it on here, yeah.
Right.
On Wikipedia, but I mean, nobody from Doctor Who's going to let it. But interesting enough, it says he's credited on Invasion of Time as David Agnew. For some reason.
Yeah. Well, because he was ashamed of it, I presume.
Well, you know, not
It's a load
saying
of
I
old
wouldn't
rot. I'm being very outrageous here.
be. But he's done some interesting
I realise
things.
that some people think it's the best thing ever.
He's done some good professional stuff, actually. I really like his professionals. Private Madness, Public Danger.
I love the fact that you know what Professionals episodes are about. To me, they're just about people running around with guns and going, "Now listen, Cowley,
Yeah, but
you two just behave yourselves." And then driving cars through windows.
It is, but you get the great thrill of being like, oh, so and so's the baddie in this one. Like
Yes, true.
Like you get what's his name? Who plays Poirot? David Suchet.
Yeah.
As a villain in one of them, and like this stupid villain as well, who he just always dresses in like it looks like he's going to war in a jungle, but he's not.
I'm a
He's
stupid villain.
He's just doing some robbery or something.
I was watching Special Branch last night, and the villain of the piece in that was an actor whose name I don't know, but he played the sort of head of the KGB in all the earlier James Bond films.
I know
and
the
ends up-
exact bloke
yeah.
you're talking about as well. The
And
glasses.
he really swanks around in it like, you know, he outclasses everyone else. You know, George Sewell actually looks frightened of him.
Awesome.
You've never watched Special Branch, have you? It was the
I've
sort
seen
of
a bit of Special Branch.
forerunner of the Sweeney. Very similar production values, but not
It was
quite
all that
so raw.
that sort of time, wasn't it? It was just you can get enough of those
Yeah.
shows. That's the
Euston Films. Listen, back to Chocky. Yes, I thought it's really. I mean, I'm middle class. Let's not make any bones about it. But it's really middle class, and it's very dry, and it's very. It has that slightly, dare I say it, patronising 1970s BBC. The same vibe to it, you know, the same as the Changes, where it's sort of spoon feeding a bit more, unlike the other stuff that ITV did, like Children of the Stones, and also the Tomorrow People, and some other things that other people have mentioned that we haven't discussed yet, that are slightly more sophisticated, like Time Slip. Time Slip is not patronising. It's like proper adult drama with the swearing and sex removed. You know, that's it. That's the only it's the only allowance they make. You know, and the rest of it is it's real drama. Whereas this was very much, it felt like it was for the children. That said, I think it's got loads of interesting things in it. It's a fantastic concept.
Well, I
which
wonder
John
whether
Wyndham came up for his original novel, and I love the way they have Chocky's voice being completely, you can't understand. It's very indistinct to start with. You just hear little bits of the sort of strange electronic effect on it, and over time you start to hear more what Chocky's saying. And it is not everything that Shane Dunphy said was true about it as well. You know that the issues that it would have addressed for 6 and 8 year olds watching this. I think it would have been. My son watched some of it and really enjoyed it. Actually,
really
interestingly,
great.
Yeah. But I had to watch all of it, and he didn't have the time. He had to run around with a Nerf gun or something, But he has these important things in his diary that he has to do.
Well, we all had it at that age. You got to do these
hide
things.
and seek. My son's still obsessed with hide and seek, and we've got such a small house. And I say, honestly, Ben, there's nowhere left. So I just hide behind doors, and he says, "Found you." I go, "Yep."
It's funny that. Isn't it?
Funny that. I always hide behind here.
I think that with the subject line, I wonder whether it had to be done in a way that it was friendly and approachable, in that way, so that the subject matter didn't get, because it's the type of thing I can imagine. I can imagine myself being young, watching it and finding it quite frightening.
Yes, I was too old. I was aware of it being on, and I remember thinking, "Oh, science fiction." Because even when you're in your it's probably not the same for you now because these things are more delineated and there's more choice available, but even when you're in your early 20s, in my day, as it were, there wasn't that much telly on, and you would occasionally, out of habit, see some children's television because you had nothing else to do, or and you put the television on. Whereas now you'd have to select a children's television channel,
and which would make you feel like you wouldn't want to do it because you'd feel a bit silly. Do you know what I mean?
Whereas if you were accidentally watching ITV at 4:00 in the afternoon, you just thought, you put there was nothing else to watch, and so I probably would have thought, oh, this is sci-fi, this is interesting, but I certainly didn't watch more than a tiny bit of it. Sounds
well,
like
I mean, like my mum, she watched the Tripods when it was on, and I think by that point, it was the 80s. She was getting married around that time.
Slightly different kettle of fish though, because that Saturday evening, they still had the family feel about that slot that Doctor Who had established.
I suppose, yeah.
But yeah, no, I get your point. And so I wasn't that aware of it. So unlike, for example, Shane, who wrote in so beautifully about it last week, this is right in the sweet spot for him, of the right age to watch it. So he will bring all those memories with him, like me with Death to the Daleks. Anyone who wasn't brought up with Death to the Daleks, apart from you, Benji, my good old chum, will just look at it and go, "What the heck is this nonsense?"
It is. I think that's it, isn't it? I think everybody has shows that speak to them on a level that it doesn't speak to anybody else. Chocky's one of those things. I think I would. Chocky, for me, I would say that if I watched it when I was younger, I would have loved it a lot more than I did watching this. I was speaking with my friend Tom Saunders, who often gets a mention on podcasts, it seems. But
and why not?
But he said, he said I really liked the email that was sent in. He said, I'm going to watch Chocky too. It'd be interesting to watch and see what you think. And he said the same to me. He said, it's really good. He said, but I feel like it's a little bit kind of quite a chore to watch. Like it's quite sort of long-winded and dry. And so it's funny that and he said that unprompted as well. So yeah, it's interesting. Another person's.
So I feel like we're breaking Shane's heart. Sorry about this, Shane.
No, because actually, what you've got here is similar to, like, in my opinion, like Children of the Stones. You've got a show which is actually groundbreaking in its own way. This is totally, this is science fiction for children in a way that they don't dress it up. This isn't. This is the parents are genuinely saying, my son's got a problem here. He's hearing voices. What's up with it? His schoolwork.
He worries that he's mad. And,
they get like a psychologist. That great guy who comes back and he says, "What is it? If you ask me as a professional, I'd say you need to refer him to somebody else. If you ask me as a friend, well, I'm stumped."
So who plays him? I know him. I've met him several times. He played Hal the Archer in The Time Warrior in Doctor Who. Oh, what's his name?
Jeremy Bulloch.
Jeremy Bullock. Oh, Jeremy's such a lovely guy, full of fantastic anecdotes, very dry, wry wit. I've spent some lovely times with him. So it was lovely to see him in the part. And as you say, James Hazeltine is great. And also Carol Drinkwater as the mother. The acting is good. I do feel that the way that the family's relationship is written is very stilted.
Yeah, I
don't believe that those two are married, and I don't think it's the acting. I think it's the words that are leading them up the garden path and making them. I didn't believe the relationship. Perhaps I'm being overly critical of a kids' TV show from 1984, but yeah, it's not real in the kind of way that Gareth Thomas's relationship with the child in Children of the Stones was real.
I completely agree with you. I mean, from taking actually an example out of this book, James Hazeltine as Bayleaf was in London's Burning. He was in a relationship with a woman a widowed woman, and they had this incredibly realistic relationship in that, where it was so perfect that it felt so natural. They both got kids from different marriages, and it was done so they were very at ease with each other. But with this, it does feel very like you've kind of got two people that have been put in a scene together, and they have these sort of discussions, don't they? And it doesn't feel very natural. You don't feel like
the discussions are very plotty, aren't they? They're not character based. They're to do with the plot. They're to do with advancing information to the audience. You know what I mean? It's sort of it's very emotionally dry and functional, and that's why it doesn't feel like a proper relationship.
But that's not to say that again, I think what makes this so brilliant is its concept and its acting. So I think, like you said, I don't think it's down to the actors there. I think it's just down to the way.
Yeah, I think the script's at fault. That's what I really feel, that the adaptation is at fault in terms of the dialogue, not the structuring of the plot, but the dialogue. Interesting. I think it's lovely to see funny little things from days gone by with people, with the family being so obsessed with getting a new car.
The Citroen. I love the name of the Citroen dealer's place. Was it Citronella? I thought that was just touch of class. But stuff as well, like the Atari, is it a Mega Drive? I can't remember now.
I think it's, Shane said it was a BBC computer,
Let me have a look. He's playing Space Invaders on it.
Yeah. And the idea that if you play Space Invaders too well, the computer will blow up, which is of course nonsense.
And he's playing so fast as well.
That's what I mean. They just speed up the picture. But it's this old idea that if you overload a computer, it will blow up, which is not what happens. They just switch off, don't they? And anyway, you can't. Oh, it's just nonsense.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a BBC Micro. He was totally on the money with that
one.
That's
what Shane said. Yeah, he knows his stuff. He
knows
his onions, or rather, his computers. Yeah,
I remember me and my friend, we used to input. I can't remember what you used to input, and it made loads and loads of writing. I remember that. He's got one. Well, he had one. I don't know if he's still got it anymore. But yeah, it's very of its time. I like the cricket scene as well. With the ball, and I was like, it's going to happen. Is he's going to hit the ball, and it's going to fly miles away, and they're going to say, "Well done, well done."
Yes, you can sort of see it all coming, can't you? It's and when he sneaks onto the boat because Chocky makes him go. Well, he doesn't sneak; he just goes onto the boat.
Just goes for it. That man
asking him questions. Yeah, come here, you. And yeah. Also, you can tell that it's been adapted from a John Wyndham novel that would have been written in the 1950s, because there's a it comes up on the local radio that he's been interviewed and stuff. And you think, well, why not television? Why is it radio? Also, I think that the announcer on the radio is now I'm not going to remember his name, a famous BBC radio announcer who does the Today programme, a Welsh chap.
They love doing
John
that,
Humphreys. John Humphreys. But this was years ago, so I think it's a young John Humphreys.
Should we have a look?
Doing the announcement. Will they actually say? Because I don't think it was credited on the programme. Also, a good bit of 70s, 80s style synthesizer music. I love the way the theme. What, it's John Humphreys?
No, it isn't. No, I was agreeing. No, I can't find any record of that.
Yeah, and I love the way the theme is kind of going Chocky, isn't it?
The theme's
it's
very
not actually
good.
Saying it just, it's that famous Hammer composer always used to compose themes that, in musical terms, said the name. Like Dracula, the theme went dun dun dun, Dracula.
Yeah.
It's lucky that there was no horror character called Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, otherwise we'd go pretty much like that song.
Pretty much like that. But no, I would say actually you're on the money with this one. The music and the title sequence especially is superb. Yeah, no, just listen to it again. Chocky. Chocky.
It also, that opening sequence looks like it's got CGI in it, which probably didn't exist at the time. So it's probably just that head is probably just a bust they made.
Probably is, yeah. When it turns out, though, it looks a bit like an Easter egg with the foil on it.
Of Matthew's face. Anyway, so there we are. We're probably giving it 3 exclamation marks out of 5,
which I think is actually a pretty fair mark to give it, because it is good. I think there are elements that let it down, but the elements aren't to do with it. It's just the elements are to do with the way it's been put together. But how it is as a thing, it's pretty damn cool.
Got to hurry you along because I've got 5 minutes until I have to pick my son up.
Cool.
Competition results. The competition was to win Captain Scarlet, the Blu-ray volumes 1 and 2. The question was, there's Harmony, Melody, Symphony and Destiny Angel. Which angel is missing from that list? The closing date was Friday the 11th. And the subject line was Angel Delight. The winner is morning stroke, afternoon stroke, evening, Benji and Nick. I know Benji likes to mention as many times of day as possible. I don't think you did that this time.
Not this time, but,
Never mind. The answer to the latest competition question is Rhapsody Angel.
Yeah.
My name is Kirk Castle and the dress is buck up, stop, don't move, etc. The Benji and Nick show needs its own catchphrase. Keep up the tangents. Best Kerr, sent from my iPhone. What could be our catchphrase?
Chocky? I don't know.
Anyway, congratulations. The Jerry Anderson store has been notified of your details, Kerr. They said they've got stuff in stock and they'll send it out to you. The new competition is to win 2 Thunderbirds alarm clocks. Are we crazy?
Yeah.
Do you want to have a look up the Thunderbirds alarm clock?
Yeah, okay.
On the store. So there'll be 2 winners. Yes, I put a note here to get you to describe the winners, not the winners, the alarm clocks. The question is, describe the Thunderbird 6 vehicle. Yeah, you know what I mean. Closing date, Friday the 25th of May, 2018. Subject line, Light-Fingered Fred. That's a little reference to something Parker says. Light-Fingered Fred's out.
Fridge out again, yeah. Do you know what? I can't find the alarm clock on the Jerry Anderson store.
What?
Shock
Oh no, you can't. It's out of stock because Jamie Anderson's going to send it to us in person. Sorry,
okay.
I'll send you up a blind alley there.
Well, in that case,
right. By the way, we had a rather good tweet from Tom Longscarf. He said, P.S. How about the following for potential topics on the podcast? The Jensen Code. Do you know that? I bet you won't know that. I don't. That is a really, really weird ITV children's thing, and I don't think it all exists. The Stone Tape.
Awesome. Absolutely awesome.
Have you ever seen that? Yeah,
I have. Yeah, it's awesome.
The Nightmare Man. Have you seen that?
Yes, I've seen that.
Nightmare Man.
Right. Yeah.
I've never seen the first 2, but both sound interesting. The third, I recall, was almost a Doctor Who style story, just missing the Doctor. That's spot on. It was.
Pretty
was
much,
it written by Robert Holmes? And directed by Douglas Camfield.
I bet it was.
It was directed by Douglas Camfield, I know that. And it had that guy from Earthshock in it, the military chap. And Celia Imrie, I seem to remember.
Yeah, Bob Holmes.
Oh, is it? My wife's at the door. Is it actually time to go? Right. Okay, I'll tell you what we're going to discuss next time, Benji.
Okay.
We're going to discuss the first episode of Space 1999, Breakaway.
On the money. Sounds good to me. Well, it's a perfect time to end the podcast. So, from me, it's goodbye.
And me too, bye.
Shoo.
Pressing stop now, ka-chunk.
Calling Benji and Nick. Calling Benji and Nick. Are you receiving me?
Hello. Good morning. Good evening. Good day. Goodness. Good Loch Ness.
If you're just joining us, welcome to the Benji and Nick Show. My name is Benji.
And my name isn't.